Let's talk about loyalty. It's a word we all use, we all think we understand it. But what if I told you that our entire understanding of it might be, well, built on a pretty shaky foundation? Today, we're going to tear it down to the studs and rebuild it using a really rigorous and, I think, powerful new framework. So, right off the bat, I want you to ask yourself a question. What is your definition of loyalty? Like, for real. Is it about how much you like someone? Is it about a shared history you have? How intense the friendship feels? Just kind of hold that thought in your head, because we are about to put all of it to the test. Okay, so the framework we're digging into today starts by just clearing the table. It says, point blank, loyalty is not affection. It is not just because you've known someone for a long time, and it is definitely not about the intensity of your feelings. The argument here is that those things often feel like loyalty, but they can just be nostalgia or attachment pretending to be a virtue. So if it's none of that stuff, what in the world is it? Well, here we go. This is the core idea, the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about. Loyalty is continuity of alignment under pressure. That's it. It sounds simple, but it's so precise. See, it's not about how you feel or act when things are easy. It's all about what you do when things get hard. Just thinking about that single definition really changes the entire game. And that brings us to our first big idea here, redefining loyalty. So this is probably the biggest shift in thinking. We usually talk about loyalty like it's a personality trait. She's a loyal person, something you either have or you don't. But this framework says, nope, it's not a trait. It is an active, repeated choice. It's not some blind thing you inherit. It's deliberate. It's conditional. It is a decision that you have to make again and again and again to stay aligned, when frankly, it would be a whole lot easier to just walk away. The source material calls this a sacred architecture, which is a strong word, but this quote right here explains it perfectly. Sacred does not mean blind. Sacred means deliberate. This is not about having some kind of unquestioning, dogmatic faith in someone or something. It's about a conscious, clear-eyed commitment that you choose to make. Okay, so if loyalty is a deliberate choice, then the next obvious question is, what are we supposed to be choosing to be loyal to? That brings us to the next piece of this framework, the 3 sacred objects. And this is where the system gets incredibly disciplined. It argues that there are only 3, just 3, legitimate targets for our loyalty. We're not talking about loyalty to institutions or brands or vague ideologies, just 3 specific things. And here's the crucial part. They exist in a very strict hierarchy. Number 1, first and always, you are loyal to principle. These are your non-negotiables, your behavioral guardrails, things like honor and truth. Then, number 2, you can be loyal to people. But, and this is a huge but, only to those who also honor principle and your mutual obligations. And finally, number 3, you are loyal to a shared, forward-facing purpose. The order here is absolutely everything. And the reason that order matters so much is captured in this one sentence. If you are loyal to people before you are loyal to principle, you will eventually betray it both. Think about that. If you put a person ahead of what's right, you'll end up corrupting your relationship with that person and losing your principles. Principle has to be the bedrock. So this brings us to a really sharp, clear line in the sand. When someone asks you to violate your principles, to lie for them, to cover for them, to look the other way, they are not asking for your loyalty. They're asking for your complicity. And this framework says you can never, ever make that trade. Now, living this way, this kind of deliberate, principle-based loyalty, it's not free. It isn't easy. It has a very real, very tangible price, which leads us to our next section, the cost of alignment. And this isn't some abstract, philosophical cost. No, we're talking about real stuff. True loyalty costs you options. It means you have to show up when it's super inconvenient. It means you have to absorb some damage quietly instead of making a scene. It means you have to defend people when it's risky for you. And it means you remain when everybody else is heading for the exits. These are genuine sacrifices. And really, that's the whole point, isn't it? It's the sacrifice, the demonstrated cost that actually makes loyalty visible and gives it meaning. You can talk about loyalty all day long, but those words are completely worthless if there's no sacrifice behind them. It has to be proven in what you do, not what you say.
But, and this is a really big but, this is not a blank check. You're not signing up for life no matter what. Knowing when loyalty must end is just as critical as knowing when to offer it in the first place. So let's explore those boundaries in our next section, when loyalty must end.
This is another one of those hard lines in this framework. Let's be perfectly clear. Loyalty is not unconditional. It only lasts as long as that alignment we talked about is still there, and as long as principles are being honored. The only thing that's unconditional is submission, and submission is not a virtue. This right here draws that distinction so clearly. A loyal act is having the courage for an honest confrontation. An enabling act, that's just lying to make someone feel comfortable. Loyalty means allowing people to face the consequences of their actions. Enabling means shielding them from their own failures. Loyalty protects principle, always. Enabling just makes excuses for dysfunction. One of these strengthens people, the other absolutely corrodes them. Now, when you think of the word betrayal, what comes to mind? Probably something loud and dramatic, right? A knife in the back. But the source material argues that's actually pretty rare. Most betrayals are quiet. So what do these quiet betrayals look like? Well, they look like silence when you knew someone needed defending. They look like absence when your presence really, truly mattered. It's when you choose your own convenience over a clear obligation you had. And maybe the most common one of all, it's choosing neutrality when your principles were screaming at you to take a stand. So let's try to put all these pieces together. What does it actually look like to live this out? Our final section is all about that. A deliberate choice. A person who has really mastered this sacred architecture is just very intentional. They bind themselves carefully because they understand the weight of that commitment. And because of that, they leave rarely. But when they're tested, they stand their ground, and they're willing to confront when it's needed to protect a principle or a person. And maybe most importantly, they never, ever confuse just being attached to someone with the actual virtue of loyalty. And maybe this is the ultimate sign of someone who truly gets it. For a person who lives this way, their loyalty is something that is felt by the people around them through their actions. It's not something they have to constantly talk about or advertise. It's just there. It's solid, it's reliable, and it's real. And so this whole explainer really leaves us with one last, very powerful question that I want you to reflect on. If you look at your own life through this lens, this hierarchy of principle, people, and purpose, where is your loyalty truly owed right now? And maybe more importantly, is it being tested?